VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon House.
Welcome. Glad you are with us today. All right, we're going to talk with Dr. Andy Woods, Middle East Bible Prophecy Update. Let's talk a little bit about maybe the attack, the ongoing and continuing attack on Jews, Christians, the Scofield Bible, Mr. Scofield is himself, dispensationalism. Oh, there's so much going on, folks. And of course, we have the appointment of a new Fed chairman. Now, apparently, he's tied back to the Bilderberger Group. We'll get into that tonight with Patrick Wood. But someone is saying that his father-in-law is like the head of a major Jewish organization, global Jewish organization. Okay, here we go again. We have Gentiles, we have Jews, yep, we have Catholics, we have Protestants, we have Hindus, we have Sikhs, Muslims, we have all kinds of people that get into government at all levels. And we got a guy tied back to a Jewish leader, and yep, cue the conspiracy tweets right on time. Let's deal with all this. Andy Woods joins us, andywoodsministries.org. Dr. Woods, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for dealing with us. Thanks for dealing with us. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, good to be here.
Are you reading this about the Fed chair's father-in-law?
I have not seen that, but, you know, surprise, surprise. I mean, the one worlders have their hands in everything, so it doesn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm. That's what people are stating. I haven't had a chance to go and research all this, but they're all claiming that his father-in-law or somebody. Yeah. Here we go. Warsh is married to Jane Lauder, billionaire heiress of the Estee Lauder. I guess it would be Jane Lauder. That's how you say that, Estee Lauder. Heiress to the Estee Lauder fortune. Her father is Ronald Lauder, Trump's close college friend. Ronald, many websites are saying, is the president of the World Jewish Congress. And so folks are making issue of this. Like I care. What does that have to do with the price of tea in China, Dr. Woods?
Well, I mean, people need to get some clicks and likes and subscribes, so you got to talk about something.
It's just nonstop. Here's another guy putting it out there. I won't even quote this guy because he's always saying something against the Jews. Ronald Lauder, the father-in-law of Trump's pick to run the U.S. economy at the Federal Reserve, Kevin Warsh. Lauder heads the World Jewish Congress and wants people jailed for a long time for allegedly anti-Semitism, which really means criticism of the Netanyahu tyranny. Well, this is going to get really interesting. And of course, there are some folks on Capitol Hill that are already coming out against him as the Federal Reserve chairman. He apparently is really big on the idea of cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. So, and again, I guess President Trump has known him for a long time. And of course, President Trump wants the interest rates to come down, and he wants to see, us move more in, the tech bro route, which with the Genesis Act and others. So he's picking a guy that's clearly, I think, friendly to what Palantir and all these guys want. That I think is free and fair game to talk about. I just don't like seeing people turn every appointment into a let's go hunt down his Jewish relatives and then make a Jewish anti-Semitic rant about it.
Yeah, you're talking about the Genius Act, right?
Yes. What did I call it?
You called it the Genesis Act.
Well, there is a Genesis Act that fits in there with it, by the way. So,
well, yours is more spiritual, but
no, but there is a bill. There's a Genesis bill as well.
Gotcha.
So yeah, which we were just talking about the other day. So they all go together. But anyway, I just thought you might find all that interesting. So there you go.
Well, Netanyahu running a tyranny, is that what they're talking about?
Yeah, that's what we're told.
How does a state about the size of New Jersey that's attacked over and over again, that's fighting for its very existence, run a tyranny? I mean, I'm not getting it. Maybe they're confused and they ought to be talking about Islam. I think they're running a tyranny. But why is Israel being accused of being tyrannical constantly? It doesn't make any sense at all.
No. All right, let's go to something that we don't need to show the screen, but I'll read it, guys. This is what one of our viewers or listeners, I'm not sure where he comes from, has sent me. I'd like to discuss this topic with you since you're teaching the book of Daniel. The traditional view of the 70 weeks of Daniel concludes there is only 1 week of the 70 unfulfilled. There are 3 weeks unfulfilled. That's what he says. Cyrus, per Isaiah 44:28, gave the commandment to restore and rebuild Jerusalem, not, however you say that, Artaxerxes. The 70 weeks includes Jerusalem also. Nothing happened to the city as Jesus Christ rode the donkey into Jerusalem. The 1 week position is based on Josephus and Anderson's work. History books are not inspired. The city was destroyed 68 years after the birth of Christ. This matches Daniel 9:26. The people of the prince shall destroy the city, end quote. The part of verse 26 is excluded in 1 week position. I think you desire to teach the truth, and he wants us to contact him so he can bring us up to speed. Well, what are your thoughts? And he also has recommended a book. Are you aware of the book he recommended me? I asked you to check it out. It's the book, Chronology Aspects of the Life of Christ by Harold Hoehner, Hoehner. All right, you want to respond to this?
Well, that book is the one I recommended to you.
Oh, that's the one you recommended to me. Okay.
And that's the one he's not interacting with.
Okay.
You know, it's like dealing with somebody that wants to be a scholar and they're not interacting with the scholarship on the issue. I mean, the dominant scholarship on this issue is what Harold Hoehner, who was my dissertation reader and advisor.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Who, by the way, had 2 PhDs, one from Dallas, one from Europe. And what he wrote in that book, Chronological Aspects of the Life of Christ, he has a chapter there on the 70 weeks of Daniel. And this was part of his, I think it was Cambridge dissertation, that all those highfalutin, European scholars signed off on. And he shows that Daniel's 70 weeks prophecy was fulfilled to the exact day. And I don't know why somebody would reject that and pretend like he doesn't exist and instead send you an email from a bunch of other people that have come up with something that where the 70 weeks prophecy, the first 69 weeks is not fulfilled, to the exact day. I mean, it's like having a discussion about, the theory of relativity and ignoring the work of Albert Einstein is basically what your friend there, the guy that wrote you that email, is doing. And he's got the whole thing all wrong. He thinks that the decree, and this comes from Daniel chapter 9, verse 25. It says over there, so you are to discern that from the issuing of a decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem. So it can't be a decree to rebuild the temple in the post-exilic world. It's a decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem, the city. Until the Messiah comes, there will be 7 weeks and 62 weeks, 69 weeks total, 483 years. And it goes on and it says it's referring to Jerusalem, will be built again with moat, even in times of distress. So the issue becomes, well, when was that decree issued? And if people will go to Nehemiah 2, verses 1 through 6, they'll see it. It was a decree issued by Artaxerxes. And when you look at verses 3 through 5, it mentions the word city, I think 3-4 times, even down into verse 7 of Nehemiah 2. It mentions the city. And so Daniel is saying all the way back in his day, there's going to be a decree in history, and once that decree is entered into, exactly 483 Jewish years from that time period into the future, the Messiah is going to come. And the only decree that we have on the record, the historical books as given in the book of Ezra, is that, and Nehemiah, is that decree of Artaxerxes. Cyrus's decrees were temple decrees. The passage is more specific. It's going to be a decree to restore and rebuild the city of Jerusalem. So that decree was entered into in 444 BC, according to the work of Harold Hoehner, who studied, all of that ancient Near East literature and was very comfortable with the accession date of Artaxerxes, 464 BC. And since this was issued in the 20th year of Artaxerxes, that takes us to 444 BC. And since these Persian kings issued their decrees in the first of the month, we can pinpoint the exact date as to when this decree was issued. And then we just go 483 Jewish years into the future, 173,880 days, because the Jews had 30-day months. And from that forward till Palm Sunday, according to the conclusions of Harold Hoehner, when you factor in leap years and you move from a Gentile calendar system of 365 Gregorian days to 360-day Jewish days, I should say, per year. When you factor in all of that, the Messiah showed up on the exact day, which was Palm Sunday. And that's why when you go to Luke 19, around verse 42, as Jesus is riding into Jerusalem on a donkey on Palm Sunday, he makes reference to this day. He says, if you had known this day, which would have been peace for you, but now it's been hidden from your eyes. And he makes reference around verse 44 to the fact that they did not recognize the time, kairos, chronos in Greek, the seasons and the times of their visitation. And that's why he's holding first century Israel accountable for understanding who he is, because they had a prophecy in their Hebrew Bible, which should have told them the exact day that Jesus would ride into Jerusalem in the triumphal entry on a donkey and proclaim his messianic credentials to the nation. And what Harold Hoehner does, it's so interesting, is he came up with the 444 BC date from the accession date of Artaxerxes. And then independently, he came up with the date for the triumphal entry, Palm Sunday. And in that book, he says, I just wanted to throw in the 70 weeks prophecy to see if it worked out. And then he said the results were better than expected, which is the understatement of the year. What he discovered is it was fulfilled to the exact day. Now, I had interaction with Harold Hoehner. He's now with the Lord constantly because he was my professor, dissertation reader, dissertation advisor. And I said to him in his office, I said, Dr. Hoehner, I think what you did is you came up with those two dates because you were trying to make the 70 weeks prophecy fit. And he assures me, looked me dead in the eye, assured me that that was not the case. He came up with those dates independently. And he was as shocked as anybody else when the whole thing, when you factor in the leap years. And
hold right there. Computer's going to take it away. I don't want to miss any of this. Fascinating. We'll give you the name of that book right after this as well. Go ahead.
Introducing the Sentry Wellness System, the ultimate under-sink water treatment solution designed with you in mind. Say goodbye to harmful toxins and hello to water enriched with essential nutrients like calcium and magnesium. Enjoy the benefits of increased pH for on-demand alkalinity, all from a zero-waste system that fits seamlessly into your home. Installation is a breeze, taking just 15 minutes, so you can have clean, healthy, great-tasting water straight from your tap. Perfect for apartments, homes, rentals, and even RVs. Elevate your hydration and well-being with the Sentry Wellness System because you deserve the best in every drop.
Sentry H2O. Tap into wellness.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com. The book he's talking about, which I'm going to order chronological aspects of the life of Christ. Chronological aspects of the life of Christ. Harold Hoehner. Is that how you say it? Hoehner?
I think you say it Hoehner.
Hoehner? H-O, let me spell it for radio people. Last name is Hoehner, if you want to order it. Last name again, Hoehner. All right, so pick it up. So you're in his office and you're kind of bold, Mr. Woods, Dr. Woods. I mean, this guy is judging your dissertational paper and you're telling him, I think you made up the due dates.
Well, you have to understand him. He was such a great guy. He loved debate. He loved discussion. He was a traditional dispensationalist. Now, on the other side, he was a Democrat. He was he believed that socialism was the way to go. And he talked about how when he was studying in Europe, how great the healthcare system was, and, how Ronald Reagan, anybody could have brought down the Soviet Union. It was just a paper tiger. And so when he figured out I was a conservative, we just got into these roaring discussions. And he was not the kind of guy, liberals today, they want to shut you down. They want to destroy your career. He was not like that at all. He was like what I would call an intellectually honest liberal. And he would just love to have these debates and discussions about politics. So he'd always refer to me as Andy. Oh, here comes Andy, the Republican. And, of course, I'm more of a conservative than a Republican, but he was just a lot of fun. And he was a traditional dispensationalist. And he had done all this work on the 70 weeks prophecy. The fruit of his labor is in that book, the chronological aspects of the life of Christ. And I had him for Bible chronology also. This was a guy that could tell you the day Adam got his belly button, as we used to joke. He took the Usher's chronology and actually updated Usher by about 4 years. And, like Daniel 5, which you'll be getting to, Brandon, in your study, when did that happen? He could calculate the exact date of it. October the 12th, 539 BC. And then he said Saturday night. And he would run the whole calculation and prove what he was saying. That's when, the events of Daniel 5 happened. And he had taken a good hard look at the chronological aspects of the life of Christ. And he came to some certainty in his mind as to when the Artaxerxes decree was issued and when Palm Sunday happened. And then he just said, let's just for fun see if the 70 weeks prophecy works out, because that prophecy predicts 483 years between that decree and Palm Sunday. And he writes in that chronological aspects of the life of Christ, the results were better than expected, which is kind of an understatement. I mean, he was as shocked as anybody when it worked out to the exact day. So all of this to say, when some guy writes you an email and has all the characters wrong, has all the interpretation wrong, and doesn't even acknowledge that Harold Hoehner's work on this exists, I mean, I take a look at an email like that. I don't even want to read it. In fact, I don't even want to look in that guy's direction, because he's obviously abysmally unaware of the latest scholarship, which shows that Daniel's 70 weeks was fulfilled to the exact day. And that, by the way, is why you remember in the temple, Anna and the other prophetess's name that escapes me, they were in the temple in early Luke, and I think it was Simeon, was it not? They were there in early Luke, and they were waiting for the consolation of all things. I mean, they knew a general time period when the Messiah would show up, because there was a remnant within Israel that took seriously and literally the 70 weeks prophecy, and they could sort of figure out the general time period when he would be born. And by the way, that's a reason why the Magi are coming from Babylon in Matthew 2 to search out the coming of Christ associated with a star, because they had access to this prophecy. And the reason they had access to this prophecy is Daniel, back in the 6th century, received that prophecy in Babylon. And when you go to the end of Daniel 2, when Daniel successfully interprets the vision there in Daniel chapter 2 of the statue, he was elevated to into the ranks of the magicians of Babylon, the Magi. And so the Magi, centuries later, had access to Daniel's work. And by the way, they also had access to Balaam's prophecy. Numbers 24, I want to say around verse 17, which analogizes the coming of the Messiah to a star, because Balaam, that had that prophecy, was a resident of Babylon, Mesopotamia. You'll see that in Deuteronomy 23, verse 4. So here are these magi coming to worship the Christ child on the basis of two prophecies. They had the star prophecy, Numbers 24, verse 17. They had the 70 weeks prophecy, and they knew the general time when the Messiah was going to be born. And that was a rebuke on the nation of Israel that had a full canon, a full Hebrew Bible that we call the Old Testament. And they did not recognize the time of their visitation. And yet these pagans, these Gentiles, coming from notorious and infamous Babylon, had two scriptures, and they recognized who Jesus was, and God's own people couldn't recognize it. So it becomes fascinating how the whole New Testament, starts to fit into place, when we understand the precision of the 70 weeks prophecy. And Harold Hoehner vindicates the whole thing in his work, The Chronological Aspects of the Life of Christ. And that helps explain Luke 19. You did not recognize the day of my coming, the time of my visitation. And it tells us how to handle the rest of prophecy. If the first 483 years of the prophecy came to pass to the exact day, what are you going to do with the 7 years of it left in the future? Well, the Holy Spirit, does not change horses in midstream. And the rest of the prophecy will be just as literal, yet future, as the first 483 years were. So it's a terribly exciting prophecy. It furnishes the foundation for understanding the New Testament. A lot of Christ's statements make no sense unless you understand this, because there's something, it's pretty prominent in Mark's gospel called the Messianic secret, where Jesus would do a miracle and people would recognize who he was. And then he makes this strange statement, tell no one who I am. Don't tell no one my true identity. And scholars have spilled a lot of ink trying to explain that one, but there's a simple explanation. Jesus didn't want his messianic identity to be made public until the right day, because Daniel said he would divulge his messianic credentials to the nation on a specific day, which was Palm Sunday, and that day hadn't arrived yet. And so that makes the whole messianic secret dialogues that Jesus has understandable, and it forms the basis for our future understanding of the end times, which will be just as literal.
And this individual that's emailing and wanting to refute 70 weeks is obviously he's opposed to dispensationalism, correct?
Yeah, he comes up with an interpretation that's anti-dispensational, and that's fine. Interpret the Bible however you want, but don't pretend like you're some kind of authority on the subject when your email betrays your relative lack of knowledge of the subject matter. It would be like, as I said before, me trying to have a debate about E equals MC squared and not even acknowledging the role of Albert Einstein. I mean, that's how foolish these people look when they want to give you a lecture on what the 70 weeks prophecy means, and they demonstrate no awareness or understanding of the key scholarly work that's been done on the subject, which has been done by Harold Hoehner. By the way, Hoehner was not the first guy to come up with this. It was a guy named Sir Robert Anderson, who, by the way, was instrumental in helping resolve the Jack the Ripper case in Scotland. He was a brilliant forensics guy, and he gave his mind to this in the, I don't know, late 1800s, early 1900s, somewhere in there. And he wrote a book called The Coming Prince. And what Hoehner did is he took Anderson's conclusions and updated them, because he felt that Anderson didn't have access to all of the archaeological data in his time period that Harold Hoehner had. And so that's why Harold Hoehner changes the date of the decree, because he had better information concerning the accession date of Artaxerxes in not 445, but 444 BC. And Nehemiah chapter 2, I think it's verse 1, says the decree was issued in the 20th year of Artaxerxes, which would take us to 444 BC. And Bible readers will remember this decree. It's Nehemiah petitioning his boss there in Susa for Artaxerxes for permission to return to the land of Israel to restore and rebuild the walls around the city of Jerusalem. And the moment that Artaxerxes issued that decree and gave Nehemiah the opportunity to return is the moment a divine hand put his hand on a stopwatch that already existed and hit the start button. And it ticked off exactly 483 Jewish years until Palm Sunday. And the moment the nation of Israel turned Jesus down on Palm Sunday is the moment God put his finger on the stop button. And that finger has been on the, maybe better way of saying it, the pause button ever since. And God is at work through a new man today called the church. But the church age is not going to last forever. The church will be translated to heaven in an event called the rapture. And then what does God do with this unfinished 7 years? He puts his finger right back on the restart button, and it ticks off the final 7 years, beginning with another decree. This one will be a decree of some sort between the Antichrist and unbelieving Israel. So that's the proper way to understand the 70 weeks prophecy. There's no need to come up with something better when you've got something that works out to the exact day.
That is absolutely fascinating. So he obviously has the date of Christ's birth. When does he think Christ was born?
I don't remember it off the top of my head, but he's got all that in the book. As you leaf through it, he's got some helpful charts and everything. But he was, Hoehner was a scholar. He was not into this mentality that we have today where people try to shout you down or, they try to deny you tenure. He was a very honest intellectual. That's why I love the guy. That's why I gravitated towards him. That's why I went and asked him, to be my dissertation reader, because I wanted that kind of feedback. Mm-hmm. And he was just a super terrific human being, and he was a lover of dispensationalism and was a traditional dispensationalist, although his personal politics
did that bleed over into his eschatology? I want to ask you that. No?
Yeah, absolutely not.
Okay, I'll ask you about that on the other side. I want to hear about that and more. Don't go away, guys. Fascinating. Fascinating.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab. And here, you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. I notice here that he passed away on February 12th, 2009, at the age of 74, collapsing at home in Dallas following a morning jog. Hey, right?
I got a story on that.
But the fact that he's out jogging at 74, that's pretty impressive.
Well, he was razor thin. He was always getting on the student's case about being overweight. He was into all the low carb stuff. I got a story on that, on his death. This is another interesting point of history and how God has looked out for me over the years. I graduated from Dallas, and I had, what had happened is I got a job in Houston teaching at a Bible college. And so I left the school to take that job, having turned in my dissertation. And your outside reader is your most important guy, because he's the guy outside your department that can give you a lot of trouble if he doesn't agree with what you're saying. And so what happened is I left the school, turned in my first draft of my dissertation, started teaching at the Bible college, looked at the website, and found out what you just said, that he had died. And then very selfishly, I said, well, what's going to happen to me in my dissertation? I guess they're going to have to kick it over to somebody else, which I wouldn't have been very happy with, because he agreed with my hermeneutics, my literal approach to the book of Revelation. And so I was wondering what's going to happen. And the way it worked out is my dissertation, about a day or two later, arrived in the mail.
Wow.
With his signature on it. And I looked at the date, and it was the day before he died.
Wow.
So he signed it.
Hope you kept that.
And I did. I'm actually have the last living signature of the great Harold Hoehner.
You should frame that. Why is that not on your office wall?
Well, I'm working on it. But the truth of the matter is, he signed it, and then the very next day he died. And so I was able to graduate with flying colors because I had his signature. I like to say I killed him, because I probably bored him to death with my dissertation, and that's what killed him. But
it sounds like he was a big fan of yours. He
was just a nice guy, and he saw if you were sincere, he liked you. I guess the best thing I could say about the guy is we don't have intellectually honest people today, where, if you disagree with someone, all of a sudden you're their enemy and they hate you. He wasn't like that at all. If he disagreed with you, he was willing to say, I'm wrong about such and such, but you had to make your case.
Did you ever do that when you're arguing economics or whatever? Did you ever convince him otherwise?
Not really. And I don't know if I was the best equipped guy, to go into his office and do that. But he was just one of the few professors I've ever had that was like that. And I just appreciated him, from that standpoint. I mean, he was very aggressive about what he thought, the way the world should work. And that's fine.
I guess I'm reading a little bit more about him. When it comes to Ephesians, he did a eschatological commentary. Came out in 2002. They say that it is a massive 960-page work defending the authorship by Paul, and that it's one of the best. One of the most comprehensive conservative evangelical commentaries on Ephesians is by him.
Well, I'll tell you a little something about that. He was working on that for years. I mean, going back to the 70s, he was working on that, because I remember talking to professors saying, Hoehner's still working on Ephesians. I mean, he was working on that when I was a student here, and he got it done. And let me tell you something about his commentary on Ephesians, and I don't say this lightly. It is the best commentary in church history on Ephesians. And it comes from our angle. It comes from the dispensational angle, where he takes the church as a mystery. He proves in there that the church is this is what all the Reformed people deny, that the church is a new man, never before disclosed. He takes all the traditional views of it. He had studied in Europe. He had heard all the liberal arguments as to why Paul, was not the author. He quotes them all, and he refutes them all. And he would kind of get down on other commentaries because they didn't quote the liberals enough, meaning, if the liberals are so wrong, you should give them a fair hearing and refute what they're doing. Don't just ignore them. And that's the kind of guy Hoehner was. He could hear all the arguments as to why Paul was not the author, and he would give a very cogent response, very well written, very well studied, very well documented. And so if people are looking for some good stuff for their library, get his chronological aspects of the life of Christ. I mean, it's the best you're ever going to find on the subject. And get his 900-page commentary on the book of Ephesians. And it just bugs me to no end when these type of giants are just ignored by people, and people come across like they're authorities on something, and they won't even interact with the guy's work. I mean, I guess it's easier to ignore it than to interact with it, because if you try to interact with it, you're going to have a very difficult time, because it's the best that's ever been produced.
He does think that we have the winter, that Jesus was born in the winter. I just looked that up. He doesn't argue a date, but he 5 BC, and he argues against the traditional December. He argues against the traditional December 25th as the exact date, but focuses on the year. But he says it was possibly winter.
Yeah, so the December Christmas could be a reality. I know people, fight to the death on that, but I guess my question is: have you read Hoehner, and have you interacted with him? That's what I'm asking these people.
But his liberalism, social liberal. It wasn't like pro-abortion or anything.
No, and I should clarify. I mean, he was not. When I say liberal, I'm not talking about LGBTQ
right.
plus. I'm not talking about all that stuff. I'm talking about socialized medicine, socialism. Very down on the Reagan administration and their, economic policy, supply side economics.
So he's more of a bleeding heart economic guy.
Yeah, he was.
Which kind of fits with what I'm reading about him. They say he was he was known for his integrity, his sense of humor, that he was extremely well liked.
Oh, he was beloved. And those teachers over there in the New Testament department, the ones that are now in there, they wouldn't be there if it wasn't for him. I mean, he's the one that handpicked those guys, recommended European training, which I don't think has done real well for a lot of schools, sending our best and brightest to Europe for training, because essentially what happens is they come back different. But you see, Hoehner went over to Europe for European training, and he had enough integrity and smarts to stay a traditional dispensationalist. He was not changed. He listened to what they were saying, but he never changed his view on traditional dispensationalism. And a lot of the younger guys, Charles Ryrie was that way too. He had European training. A lot of the younger guys, Hoehner, I think, expected to be the same, but unfortunately, they didn't. They got a little dose. They started to bring a little dose of Europe back with them, and it changed a lot of their views on things. And I think that's why a lot of our seminaries and schools, etc., have sort of moved in a leftward direction. But if all those guys had been a Harold Hoehner, we wouldn't be in the mess that we're in today.
I hear his nickname was Herod Hoehner because he did so much study on Herod.
His expertise was Herod Antipas. Now, how many people would specialize in something like that? But I think it was Herod Antipas, and so that's why he got the nickname, Herod Hoehner. I wish everybody could have studied under him. I got the privilege, and I was there at a good time to get guys like that. And I kind of feel sorry for the body of Christ that they didn't get the same experience I got.
Well, I'm ordering the book.
Yes.
Chronological aspects of the life of Christ. Chronological aspects of the life of Christ. All right. Fascinating conversation. All right. Let's get to a few other topics in the news real quick. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out what's a fun one to talk about here. Well, here we go. 76 Republicans vote to fund abortions and trans procedures. And we wonder why so much of the grassroots is sick of the Republican Party.
Yeah, that had to do with part of one of those big spending packages that came in. And then there was a senator, I think it was, the article mentions his name, that tried to introduce something, to get rid of the trans stuff and abortion stuff in there. And 76 Republicans voted against what he was trying to do. And one of them, by the way, is someone named
Norman.
Yeah. Well, the article says, I'd have to pull it up here.
Yeah, I think it was Representative Ralph Norman, Republican of South Carolina. He offered an amendment to remove the earmarks.
Yes.
Defeated on Thursday, and lots of Republicans helped.
And one of the people that went the wrong direction on this is someone named Elise Stefanik. And people will know her name because she was at one point considered to be the most likely gubernatorial candidate that could beat the liberals there in the state of New York. And she resigned abruptly, but look at her voting record. I mean, if you're a conservative, why in the world would you vote against this provision that this senator was trying to introduce? So that's why we're in the mess that we're in today. Is we've got what Sidney Powell calls uniparty.
All right, let's see what else we got. Let's see. Oh, yeah, here we go. Governor Josh Shapiro alleges in memoir that Kamala Harris's team asked him if he had ever been an Israeli agent. I knew they didn't pick him as the running mate because he was Jewish. I figured there was no way, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was subjected to questions that even shocked him. I mean, they were going into stuff that he had written in college that was not consistent with their understanding, of a two-state solution. And it's not like the guy is some kind of flaming liberal, conservative. He's just a Jewish person that believes in the, existence of that the nation of Israel is a legitimate nation and should exist. So because of that sin in the Democratic Party, they subject him to all these questions. Did you influence campus movements? Were you ever a double agent? These types of questions. And so the days of Joseph Lieberman are long gone. I mean, remember it was Gore, no conservative, that picked Lieberman, as his vice presidential running mate, a Jewish individual. And you wonder if Gore or whoever could have even picked a Lieberman today, because the Democratic Party is interested in discriminating against people just because they're Jews, which makes me wonder why so many Jews keep supporting the Democratic Party.
Yeah, that's the truth. 1-800-347-9829. Your thoughts, your comments, your questions on anything we have discussed, or a Middle East or Bible prophecy question. 1-800-347-9829. 1-800-347-9829. Get on board. 1-800-347-9829. We'll be right back with your calls. Go to worldviewtalk.com. Get your satellite phone like I have, because you know what? China is in on our power grid. That is a matter of proven fact. If you want to have communications with your loved ones, your family, your children, maybe your spouse travels, maybe you have a child away at college, you want communication should the grid go down. That's why you need a satellite phone, worldviewtalk.com. But look what else they have. They also have solar generators. I have one of their solar generators. I have the Delta Echo 400, a solar generator. So I can, of course, charge my satellite phone. I can run my coffee pot. I can run my whole house if I want to. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com, or use that number, 1-866-738-3224. They have very friendly operators that will explain to you their products, but you can explain to them what it is you're desiring to acquire. How much electricity are you wanting to generate with this solar generator? Well, they'll tell you what size you need. Worldviewtalk.com or 1-866-738-3224. All right, guys, remember, Crosstalk coming up, top of the hour, 2 p.m. Central, right here on the VCY America Radio Network, otherwise vcy.org, vcy.org. Line 1 is Zoe from Illinois. Hello, Zoe.
Hi, Brandon. Hope you're keeping warm. You
yes, we are.
I guess Andy's keeping warm, right, Andy?
Yeah, he's down in Houston. He's a lot further south than I am.
Oh, it sounds wonderful
it's
down there.
cold here. It's cold here for us, but not for normal people.
Right, I'll take it. I would take it, I think.
Yep.
I don't know how cold you mean, but anyway, first of all, I wanted to just say how I have enjoyed Sir Robert Anderson's book. And also, though, I wondered, and I want to get this Hoehner book. I appreciate knowing about that. And I wondered if you'd comment, though, even despite, I guess, things that were in error, Bishop Usher really was ahead of his time. He was fascinating. And can I make one other quick comment about something else real quick before Andy comments on that? I saw that Matt Staber posted a week or so ago that they've put an end to fetal cell research completely. I didn't read the article, I have to admit. I saw the headline, but they sounded like it was kind of airtight. Now, who knows?
Good. Well, I pray that's the case. Thank you, Zoe. Great, as always, hearing from you. Let's go to Marcus, line 4. Hello, Marcus. Thanks for calling in, Marcus.
Hi. Thanks for answering my call. I appreciate the show. This question is for Dr. Woods, I believe. I was wondering if he could explain the belief that the Jews, I don't know if all Jews or most will be saved or convert to Christianity in the end times. And I'll take the answer off there.
Thank you, Marcus. I think he's referring to when the second coming and all of Israel is saved, Dr. Woods.
Yeah, well, Romans 11:25 right in there says all Israel will be saved. And, you have to look at all the scripture on the subject. When you go over to Zechariah 13, verses 8 and 9, you learn that not every single living Jew will be saved, but there will be a remnant that will be saved. 2/3 actually broken off in unbelief. According to Zechariah's prophecy, 1/3 brought through the refining fire of the tribulation period. And it's through that believing remnant that God is going to fulfill his kingdom promises through. So before that happens, of course, individual Jews can be saved today in the church age and become part of the body of Christ. But I think the Bible is very clear that they are not in the minority. They're probably in the majority. And the nation of Israel as a whole will remain in unbelief until post-rapture, when God deals with that unbelieving nation, and 1/3 of them, however many that is yet to be determined, but we have a percentage. 1/3 will be taken through what's called Jacob's trouble and will be saved out of it. And by the time you get to the end of the 7-year tribulation period, every living Jew on planet Earth will be born again and regenerated. And that's the group that will enter the kingdom in their mortal bodies and repopulate the earth along with some or many believing Gentiles. And that's how the earth will be repopulated.
Jamie from South Dakota, line 3. Hi, Jamie.
Hello. I just wanted to say thank you to you and Dr. Andy Woods for such a great program today. And I cannot wait to get a copy of the book. It's amazing how much I learned from you both in a 1-hour radio program. So I just wanted to encourage you both in Christ and tell you both thank you so much.
Thank you, Jamie.
Dear friend Carol, it was her birthday on the 27th, and she's one who got me started listening to your radio. So I just wanted to give her a birthday shout out because she listens to your program every single day and is the one who showed me your program so that I listen to it every day.
That's wonderful. Well, happy birthday, Carol.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Brennan. It'll be a joy for her to hear that. So
well, thank you.
God bless you both, and I hope you stay warm down there in the South, too.
You too. Thank you, Jamie. Stay warm in South Dakota, and happy birthday, Carol. That's for sure. Let's see here. Chris, line 1. Hi, Chris. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, Brandon. Thanks for taking my call. I just had a quick question for you guys concerning the Millennial Temple. I was wondering, does Andy Woods, or do you think that Christ physically builds that temple, or do you think because he's God in flesh that he'll speak it into existence? I've never been able to get anyone to give me an answer on it, but the Bible does say, I think in Zechariah, it talks about that Christ builds the temple. I think there's a reference to that in Zechariah, and I think in Zephaniah, if I'm not mistaken, but I just wonder what you guys thought about that.
Okay. You think he's confusing the third temple with the temple during the millennium, Dr. Woods?
No, I think he's got the temple right. He'd be referring to the fourth temple. And
because is he referring to that, or is he referring to the tribulation temple?
No, I think he's referring to the fourth. Yeah, the fourth. That'd be
which one, Chris?
Number 4.
The call screener says you're referring to the third. Which one is it, Chris?
The millennial temple.
Oh, you are referring to the millennial. Okay, because the note said you're referring to the third. Okay, so the fourth. Okay, go right ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if we're really given a lot of information about how it's built, but it does talk about how I think this is in Malachi, will come to his temple. So there's an implication that he's the owner of it. I don't know really if we're given a lot of details concerning who builds it, but it wouldn't be surprising to me to discover that Jesus builds it. I just don't know if we have enough information to be certain about that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I certainly wanted to clarify, because I don't think the Lord's got anything to do with the building of the third temple, and you and I would agree with that, right?
Yeah, and actually Rob Lindstedt on your show made an interesting point. He doesn't think the Antichrist, if I heard him right, is going to build temple number 3. It's going to be, now he might take a Jewish understanding of the Antichrist, but he made the point that a Gentile, won't build that temple.
Right.
And so if Jesus is kind of a parallel to the Antichrist, maybe Jesus won't build it either. But I don't know. I just don't have enough information.
Do you think it's possible that the third temple will be being built during the time that the two witnesses are on the earth, and they're the ones that are protecting it's being rebuilt?
I think John Whitcomb taught something like that.
I think he did too. That's where I got it.
That's a legitimate possibility. It's just we don't have enough data,
Mm-hmm. Fascinating as always. I wish we'd have had time to get to Pastor Cass. Great calls today. Obviously, very interesting topic to people. Dr. Woods is andywoodsministries.org, andywoodsministries.org. We're worldviewtube.com, worldviewtube.com. We're going to have Gordon Chang on tonight, along with Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen. Look at some of the polls on immigration, all kinds of things going on tonight. But in the meantime, stay tuned for Crosstalk with Jim Schneider coming up now. Take care. And we're back with WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida, and you here on Worldview Tube and Dr. Andy Woods. Dr. Woods, let's go back to the attack on dispensationalism, the attack on pre-tribulation. What are these folks going to do? I mean, as more and more of what we're saying comes to pass, you just don't see the world getting better and better, building the kingdom of God on earth. I mean, their whole platform of their eschatology is collapsing, Dr. Woods. But that their response is just to attack us more and more. Almost on a weekly basis, I see a new book coming out on why Schofield, is the one that gave birth to all this, and Darby, and that it's all made up, and but I guess that's the way they're going to handle it. Is with their collapsing eschatology, they just distract everybody by attacking us.
Well, you get into this whole subject of Schofield and Darby. You notice those are non-biblical arguments. Mm-hmm. They're not arguing from the text, because the biblical text doesn't support what they want to say. So they go into what's called the genetic fallacy, where you think you can destroy an idea by tearing down a person that came up with an idea. It's like saying, well, Thomas Jefferson owned slaves, so therefore let's throw out the Declaration of Independence. I mean, it's the same, it's the same kind of logic. And I noticed that with all these articles, they demonstrate no creativity. All they do is plagiarize each other and copy each other. And they just say the same things over and over again. They pull out skeletons in Darby and Schofield's closet, and they talk about how no one ever taught this doctrine for 1,800 years. And Darby is the inventor of the pre-trib rapture doctrine. And my response is, well, I guess you believe Martin Luther is the inventor of salvation by faith alone. That's the same argument used against Luther in the time of the Reformation, back in the 16th century. Luther didn't invent sola fide. He retrieved it from neglect from Roman Catholicism. That's what Darby, Schofield, and the rest of them are doing with the pre-trib rapture. And so it's a gaping double standard that these people have. They would never say something like that against Luther, but they say all these nasty things about John Nelson Darby.
Wow. All right. What other story are you watching that's of great interest to you out of the Middle East? Obviously, Iran. We're literally sitting here waiting to see if President Trump's going to strike Iran.
Yeah, he said help is on the way. There's an armada coming. You better come to I saw his Truth Social post. You better come to the table and make a deal, or what was it? Operation Midnight Hammer, or whatever it was, is going to be replicated. I guess I'm a little uncomfortable with the president saying, let's make a deal. I don't think you can make a deal with people like that. What you got to do is you got to go in there and gain victory over them and liberate the country. And so that's what I'm hoping and praying, the president will do. I looked at Annie Cyrus's social media, and she had something up that said, I think 36,500 Iranians have been killed by their own government in the last 30 days. And all of these people, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, excuse me, and all these people, they're crying about genocide in Gaza. Yeah. As the Israelis are rooting Hamas out of Gaza, and they won't say a single word about the real genocide that's happening in Iran. So, the silence is deafening. Mm-hmm.
It is deafening. And we've got a bunch of articles over at worldviewreport.com today, worldviewreport.com. UN official who financed murder of teenage girl is going to go onto the Gaza board. I don't know what that's about, Dr. Woods. This Gaza board is going to turn out to be a huge mess. You know that, right?
Yeah, the Antichrist might come out of that board the way it's looking. We're going to throw the Pope in there, and Turkey and Qatar, however you want to pronounce that. I don't know why Netanyahu would even agree to be part of that.
So true. And then we got Tucker Carlson sitting in Saudi Arabia saying that as a fervent Christian, he's quite comfortable here in the seat of Islam.
Yeah, and he's measuring the drapes, for his new home out there
in Qatar.
Yeah, and beyond that, he spoke at some conference with a lot of those guys, and it's got the conference titles in Arabic. So the guy is just bought and paid for, and anybody that takes that guy seriously, really doesn't have two brain cells to rub together.
AndyWoodsMinistries.org, AndyWoodsMinistries.org. As always, Dr. Woods, thanks for being here with us.
All right. Well, thank you for letting me come on and share some things that God has done in my life with the Harold Hoehner situation.
Very fascinating. Fascinating. Yep. I think a lot of people really enjoyed it. All right. I'll let you know. I'm ordering the book. A lot of other people are doing the same. All right, stay tuned. We'll be back 7 p.m. Central for the Worldview Report. Brandon House Live tonight. Gordon Chang, Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen, and so much more. Take care.
Faith, spiritual